Hello humans, welcome back to Code with Connor and the Let's Learn Python tutorial series. We're ready to start unit number 4. That's crazy, there's only 5 units in the course. We're doing good. Hopefully that project went well for you back in unit 3. Share with me what you did, I'd love to see it. In unit number 4, we're going to be looking at strings. So strings we've already introduced, we've done a little bit of printing with them, but we need to dive a little bit deeper in terms of how we can access and use strings in our code. In this lesson, we're going to be focusing on string indexing and substrings. We'll also have a brief conversation about something called immutability. For the challenge in this one, we're going to be creating a little substring function that uses user input, has some loops, has some functions that return. We're kind of bringing everything together again. And that's going to be normal with this kind of stuff. We build off of everything we've already done before. Let's get into it. So coming into our code, we're going to start with this teeny little program right here. So I have a variable called myString, which I've set equal to the literal string Superman. All right, literal string defined by quotation marks. This is just a variable name. We're going to talk about index notation for a string. So for I in range len myString, let's talk about this function for a second. Len is the length function, and a length function is going to return the number of characters in the string variable here, myString. So if I go counting, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 characters in this string. Now, if it was Super Spaceman, that space counts as a character. So make sure you're considering that when you're talking about the length. Now, there are string methods you can use to remove some of the spaces, but for right now, let's just remember that they do count. So this is a for loop for I in range and the length of the string. So it'll start at 0. It'll loop up to, but not including 8. So it'll go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's going to print the word index followed by the actual number that we're at, semicolon, and then it's going to use this box notation. Okay, this is what we're going to use anytime we get into data structures when we're looking at elements inside of a variable. So in this case, my variable is called myString, and it contains a whole bunch of characters, because remember that's what a string is. So what we're doing with the box notation is we're looking inside of this variable at a specific index. So at index I. So that should cycle through index 0 through 7. Okay, let's run this and see what it looks like so we can understand it better. So when I run this, you see index 0 is an S. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you can see the word Superman down there. Okay, so 0 up to 7. So you'll notice that the index notation doesn't start at 1. The length counter starts at 1 and goes to 8. But the index counter starts at 0 and goes to 7. So it's important that we recognize that, because anytime we work with indices, and anytime we work with strings, or later when we work with lists and other data structures, that index notation remains consistent through all of programming. So we're going to look at this little program now. So I've got one string X is a big long one. Batman's clearly outmatched by the Green Lantern. Second one, Y, is just a short one. It's just Superman. So we can do that same index notation, but I want to add to it. So we can actually do a little range in here using a colon, and we put the index that we start at on the left and the index that we end at on the right. So let's say we wanted the word clearly. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, space is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're going to start at 10. That's the C of clearly. And then 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. The Y is 16. Stick that in and let's run it. And we get clearly. It's not quite what we want. It didn't include the Y, even though that was index 16. So the right bound, just like in the range function, the right bound is exclusive. It is not going to include that character. So if you want a character included, you need to go to the next index. So 10 to 17 should fix my problem. And now I get clearly. You can also do an open-ended. So I could do from 10 colon and then just leave it blank inside my square brackets. And that'll start at index 10 and go all the way to the end of the string. So run that. And I get clearly outmatched by the Green Lantern. Now you can do that the other way as well. So I could do like colon up to 18, right? That's going to start at the beginning and go up to but not including 18. So Batman is clearly, right? So starting at the beginning, going there. So there's a couple of ways that you can do that. There's other notations here for strings, like putting in a negative and stuff like that I'm not going to get into. I'll put a link in the description for W3 schools, give you a little bit more on strings, but we're going to work through the lessons for this unit and we'll kind of get to some of that. Let's say we wanted to check the man from the two and see that they were equal. So let's say in the first one, I'm going to do 0, 1, 2, 3. So 3 is the M. So 3, 4, 5, 6 to get the man from the first one. And I want to see if that's equal to Y. And 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the end of the file. So this should be man equals man. So it should yield true. So run that. And we get true. So this is the basics of using substrings and index notation on strings. It can get complicated, okay? Especially when you're trying to create these general case things that are going to loop through strings of any length and are going to be able to properly do what you want them to do. So imagine trying to take a string and put it in alphabetical order, right? But it works for any string. So the indexing piece starts to get pretty tricky, and there's a lot in there. But it's a great introduction, just kind of get us started. Now we're going to look at the challenge for this lesson so you can see kind of how it works. I'll show you a tiny bit of the code, and then we'll look at execution. Tiny bit of code for the challenge. I've got this function I've called print sub, which is going to be like a substring print thing. It takes an S, a min, and a max, and it's actually going to return a true or a false value. And then I have this other one, print word indices. It takes a string S, and it's just going to do a nice printout of the word with their indices, and I'll show you that in a second. Then I've got a while true loop, where I'm essentially going to loop, and as long as print sub is returning false, I'm going to keep looping. So if they're not doing it properly, or if they're making mistakes, I'm going to keep looping. As soon as they do it properly and they give me the right min and max values for the string, then it's going to return true and it's going to kick me out of my loop and end my program. Let's look at it in execution. So in execution, it's going to ask me for a word, Superman. It's going to give me this nice printout, which is one of my functions, with the indexes on top and then the letters underneath them. Okay, and I had to get a little creative with my print statements to make it look that pretty. And then it's asking me for a starting index, so let's say 2, and an ending index, say 6, and it prints PERM. So it prints 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, not including 6. And it ended. Now, if I did that again and I did an invalid entry, so let's say I wanted to go from 4 to 12. Well, 12 is beyond the scope of the string. So it just says invalid index for the given word and lets me go again. And I have a bunch of conditions in there. What if I put the minimum value bigger than the maximum value? No good, won't let me do that. Okay, what if I put a negative in? No, it won't let me do that. Right, so there should be protection in there for all the different situations. So maybe I start at 5 and I put 5 again. No, it won't let me do that. So I've got this protection built in, and that's going to be Boolean statements inside of an if. That's going to make that happen. Now I chained mine using AND operators, but you might have another way that you want to do that. So there's some stuff in there. It's definitely got some spice to it. You're going to have to put a bit of work to get it working properly. So good luck with it. I hope it goes well. That's it for the first topic of unit number 4, which is strings. Good luck with the challenge. We'll see you back here for topic number 2. Remember, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you back here real soon. Bye, humans.